Alrighty. I think we've probably waited long enough for any of the latecomers. So thank you everyone for showing up for our first AMA in a long time. Really excited to be hosting this with you, one of our most active moderators on Telegram, especially. As a bit of an update, Mindspheres was going to be co-hosting this with me, but he has finally run out of luck and caught COVID, so he's very sick at the moment and needs his sleep so he can recover and get back to building, as all developers should. So it's just going to be myself fielding questions, and as I was saying earlier, IU has generously offered to help field some questions and fill in the silence. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it. Probably the first major thing that I wanted to cover off today is that with Mindspheres being sick tonight, we were going to do a bit of a more extended AMA, but this one might be a bit shorter. I will still field all of the pre-submitted questions and a few at the end, just so we don't leave anyone hanging who's been waiting out for this one. But we'll do another AMA next month. So Mindspheres and myself, hopefully that's enough time for him to get better. We'll do another full one. The big updates. So first of all, we have been speaking a lot with Avalabs and are looking pretty closely at launching our own subchain on Avalanche for RTLOL. So that's probably the big one. I know it's been hinted at a few times, but we're pretty well positioned and primed to be able to do that. Avalanche is positioning itself as the gaming chain, so we're thrilled to likely be working with Avalabs and Avalanche moving forward, and vice versa. It's going to be a pretty strong partnership. We're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but that's probably the first major update we wanted to give you. The second big one, and the one I'm sure most people are here for, is the alpha. So what we are looking at now is phase 1 alpha is actually going to commence next week. I should note that before you get too excited, the first phase is going to be invite only and will be made up primarily of broader team members, mods, strategic VCs, and investors. But yeah, the game is pretty much done and good for testing. And yeah, we're really excited to get it in the hands of the broader community and get some feedback so we can start tweaking and optimizing, but we're really happy with where it is. The other good news is that phase 2 alpha will launch around the end of June and will be open for public applications, which we'll post a link for very shortly. So within the next week or so, check Telegram or Discord or Twitter, depending on your preferred social media platform. And we will be posting a link for phase 2 alpha applications, which should be going live within the space of, about 4 weeks. So we're looking at end of June to be getting as many people as possible into the phase 2 alpha to test RTLOL, the TCG, and let us know what you think. So yeah, we're really excited to finally be able to announce that. I know it's been a long journey and we're appreciative of everyone's patience, but I think everyone's going to be very happy with the final result and excited with the game we've built. And yeah, I can't wait to play against some of you online. We'll be posting a Medium containing the details of these announcements within the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that as well. But we wanted to publicly announce it here first as part of the AMA, as a bit of a reward for tuning in whatever time of day it might be where you are, and yeah, making the time to be here with us in real time. So with the announcements out of the way, I might just jump into the pre-submitted questions for the AMA. IU again, she's been doing a lot of the legwork here, so she has organized some of the questions that were submitted over the last week or two since we announced the AMA. The first one was whether there are any plans to increase the liquidity, and if yes, how? So to be completely honest with you, looking at the state of the market at the moment, with market sentiment and conditions where they are, volume on our token is relatively low. Also, I guess predominantly just because we haven't released the game yet. We've been focused heavily on building behind the scenes rather than marketing, because we really wanted to make sure we have the best possible product before we ramp up our marketing. We've actually completed the team token buybacks over the past couple of months. So the good news is we have the resources to add more liquidity when needed. And the first time I would suggest that might be appropriate is in anticipation for the marketing ramp up we're scheduling, in anticipation for the public launches of the game. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We can do it when we need to, but there just doesn't seem to be any requirement for additional liquidity at the moment. Hopefully that all changes once we get the marketing engine online and the game is up and running and available to the public. The next question we received was, when can we expect an additional top tier listing for increasing shareholder value / representation? We've actually been in communication with a lot of top tier exchanges. So we have warm introductions and good contacts and relationships established there. But similar to the previous answer, it just doesn't really make sense for us or them to list before we see an uptick in token trading volume. So hopefully that's following the commencement of our marketing engine and public game launch phases. The alternative is, if we were just talking about this in mod chat, if the Fed becomes more dovish in response to some below expectation CPI figures in the near future, there's a lot of things that, could be the catalyst for volume ticking up. And then as soon as we're ready to do so, we've got the contacts at several of the major exchanges ready to pull the trigger. So I hope that answers that question. But yeah, just right now, it just doesn't make much sense. Any plans besides the drops and game to create additional business income? And could you describe which kind of possibilities do you see? So this is a pretty broad question. It's a good one. I'd say it's multifaceted. I would say that what we have been looking at is further expanding our cross-chain NFT marketplaces and NFT drops, but again, likely after at least some initial game success as a gate opener. The medium to long-term vision is for us to build out the RT-LOL universe as a flagship empire, and then to eventually launch some additional games under the Raini banner. So the expansions to RT-LOL in terms of additional game modes within the metaverse we're building, and eventually some additional games that are standalone universes, is kind of what we're looking at for the medium to long-term vision for Raini. Okay, we had a question. I think this one was from Multibagger. OG, any possibility to prove how many people are working behind Raini in order to build more trust? So that's a good question. We've been quoting numbers for a while, and we can confirm that we're in the mid-20s in terms of total headcount across platform dev, game dev, art, music, marketing, management, and so on. This includes a number of team members who aren't actually full-time employees of Raini, even though they're working full-time on the project. So these are independent, freelancers or contractors. We do have a very good core team, which is probably about half of our headcount, and then the other half are the contractors and independents, all of which are working full-time at the moment. We don't really have anyone doing part-time hours or ad hoc work, and the number is about 25. However, having spoken to our team members, a lot of them are not really comfortable doxing to the public. And then from a managerial perspective, from the real world fintech that MS and I ran prior to this, we're a bit reluctant to be doxing our team members because it's taken us a really long time and a lot of work for us to build a really solid team of very talented individuals. And the last thing we would want is for them to get headhunted just because we post how good they are publicly on our forum. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment, to be completely honest. There's a couple of reasons why doxing the team isn't really an option, but I can assure you that we've got about somewhere in the range of mid-20s in terms of total team members working full-time equivalent on the project. The next question we had submitted was, shouldn't we stop to earn X Photon, or do you have any underlying calculation which allows to earn longer than originally planned in the beginning? That's a good question, actually. I think there's a lot of confusion around the way X Photon is working. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it's basically an early adoption reward that we implemented for Genesis card holders who stake them. But it's the thing I should clear up first of all for anyone who isn't aware is that it's not Photon. So Photon is going to be the primary in-game token within Rainy, the Lords of Light, the game and the metaverse. But X Photon is allowing holders of that token to redeem vested Photon tokens over a period of time. We've set aside a certain proportion of Photon for this purpose. So the X Photon ratio will be defined by the relative balances and the Photon allocation at the time we launch the Photon token. So it's not going to, I guess the fact that we've got a figure in mind and it's just a relative balancing act, and the fact that it's time vested, shouldn't really have any negative impact on the initial tokenomics of Photon or the game world economy. So we did anticipate that and plan ahead just in case it took us a bit longer than we would have liked to get the game where we needed it to be. We had another question from Adidas. What are the plans for a future game, or will they focus on other stuff other than game development? Our intention for the short to medium term is, as you would have seen lately, focusing 90% of our energy on RT-LOL. We want to make the most engaging, highly polished, and successful game and metaverse world that we can as a flagship to really put Rainy on the map. And so as part of that focus, our intention beyond the initial release is to tweak and optimize and balance the game and just make it as engaging and successful as possible, but then to add further game modes to the metaverse world of Rainy, the Lords of Light. Beyond that, we would be looking at eventually launching additional titles, but we really want to make sure that Rainy, the Lords of Light, the whole metaverse game, including the trading card game, which is our flagship game that is going into alpha very shortly, is as successful as possible, and we get as many people playing and hyped about Rainy as a whole. We believe that's kind of the keystone towards unlocking a world of opportunity for Rainy in the future, and that is where we have been investing all of our resources behind the scenes. Okay, I think that's the end of the list of the questions that I had prepared beforehand. So yeah, I can open it up again now. If there are any other ones, please feel free to post them in Telegram, in Twitter. Mods, if you guys can DM me or tag me of anything that I might miss, now would be a perfect opportunity to post them and get an answer.
Well, how many people can the game support? That's a question in the main chat right now.
Yeah, good question. We are utilizing a combination of, as I flagged at the beginning of the AMA, an Avalanche subnet, which will basically be our own chain within a chain for Rainy, which we have full control over, along with, something along the lines of AWS. So you can spin up more server space as you need. So the way we've built it, it has a lot of scalability. We're looking at, multiple tens of thousands of simultaneous players as needed.
Oh, and when is the second card drop planned?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's going to be shortly before the Photon launch. So the timeline we're looking at now is, as I said, phase 1 closed alpha next week. Phase 2 alpha, which is applications open to the public, end of June. And then it's possible that we will be doing the card drop around the time, but it's probably more likely to be early Q3 at this stage that we'll be doing the pack drop. Note that the pack drop is going to have, in addition to cards for RT-LOL, the ability to have hero NFTs that you'll be able to use in both the TCG, the trading card game, sorry, if you're not familiar with this. There's a lot of acronyms here, I know. as well as the broader metaverse game. So yeah, but we basically have it all ready to go. We just really want to make sure we time it at the right moment to maximize the value for all card holders and Rainy holders. And the way we believe it's best to do that is after we've had a bunch of people play testing the game and building some hype. And once we've started our marketing engine, which we have been preparing in anticipation for the game launch.
えっと、ちょっと Okay, I guess this one would be for the final bid. Can new players play the game without cards, or would they need to buy the cards first? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure this one has come up.
yeah, absolutely. That's also a really good question. So we're making the game free to play. We want to have as broad an appeal as possible and as easy an on-ramp for new players. However, the most powerful players and the ones who will be able to maximize their Photon earnings will be those that have the very powerful NFT cards. So the way this is a free-to-play game is that every new player will have access to a large number of base cards, which aren't NFTs, but you can build a deck out of purely base cards if you want. Um, we've balanced it in a way where we feel you still have a decent chance of winning, but you'll have a notable advantage if you have the more powerful NFT cards. The play to earn aspect is also going to be severely limited for people who have little to no NFT cards. So, but it'll allow new players to get into the game, play around with it without investing a large sum of money, and then yeah, hopefully they enjoy the game and then they start investing in the NFT cards from there.
Alright. Atkin, your mic is well, the audio is a bit distorted right now. Anyway, give me a bit out. Let me forget the questions. So,
Sure.
how
So
young? Yeah, the audio is a bit distorted. How long after full game release might the mobile version be available? Seems to be very important for uptake on a lot of these types of games.
sorry, what was that? Are you is my audio still distorted? Can you hear
Oh,
me okay
it's
now?
alright. Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, perfect. Did you want to just copy paste me that question? Because I'm
Alright.
getting a similar thing for your audio, so I didn't hear that properly. Thank you. So Drasnibar said, how long after full game release might the mobile version be available? Seems to be a very important, I guess, aspect for uptake on a lot of these types of games. Yeah, that's a great question. And something we've had front of mind throughout the whole development process. So we've built the game in a way where it should be a much easier process to transition to mobile devices. But we have focused on WebGL for our initial release. So for anyone who's not aware, if you want to play the game initially, it's going to be available through any browser, WebGL. You'll need to use a wallet, like a MetaMask address, something that's ETH compatible, in order to verify your account. It's kind of like a login. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to start with WebGL, because it makes it a lot simpler for authentication, given that we have to interact with the blockchain. But the actual game transition to mobile, it really shouldn't take too long. The main thing we're looking at is more on that blockchain side, because not everyone has like a MetaMask equivalent app set up on their phone like they would their computer. So, but we have built the game with in mind from day one to make it as easy as possible. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a time frame on that. It really depends on how the game grows, how quickly it grows, and how much demand there is for mobile. But I can assure you that we've built it in a way where if the demand is there, we'll be able to do it quite quickly and efficiently.
So this is another question regarding photons. How will Raini make it so photons won't dump? I guess in terms of like value.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So from a game design perspective and a tokenomics perspective, it's really important to ensure that the world you're building the game in for any play to earn or play and earn mechanic has enough sinks to ensure that, as the question was alluding to, the token price just doesn't dump. So this is something we've invested a lot of time into. My background is in finance, and we've actually engaged a number of people to give us advice on this and used, I guess, a lot of references for projects that have done it in the past, some more successfully than others. I think play to earn as a whole is a new and emerging space that a lot of the world is really still figuring out. But I guess the short answer is that we've identified, I think we're up to 19 sinks that will ensure that there's sufficient demand for Photon to be spent in a way where it enhances your gameplay, I guess, experience, where whether that be your earning rate, your power level, your cosmetics, there's a significant number of ways that we have built the game so that players should feel motivated to spend as many of their Photon as possible rather than hoard them or just sell them on the secondary market.
Thank you, Atkin. There's another question. How do you ensure that the Raini token will be more important than the Photon token?
Yeah, that's a great question too. The probably the easiest way to think of the two tokens is Photon is the main token for in-game usage in RT lol specifically, whereas Rainy is more of an index. So it's going to have access to all of the games under the Rainy ecosystem, whereas the Photon is only going to be used within Rainy, the Lords of Light. So over the medium to long term, when we start releasing other games, then Rainy is going to have exposure to all of them. Whereas Photon is going to be primarily and solely focused on Rainy, the Lords of Light. The other point I should make there is that Photon, there is a lot of ways to earn it in RT-LOL, whereas Rainy, it's got a fixed supply that's basically fully in circulation now. So yeah, we've had to create a huge number of sinks for Photon in order to ensure the tokenomics such that Photon should have a successful run. Whereas the Rainy tokenomics, we're just going to continually add value as we release more games over time.
Right. For the next question, does the FX subnet mean that the Phantom PN is cancelled?
Yeah, that's a good question too. And it's looking that way. As I said earlier on, nothing is 100% locked in, but we are definitely leaning more towards an Avalanche subnet for a number of reasons. It gives us control over the gas prices to ensure that we can balance security of the chain with fees that are not going to be prohibitively too expensive to actually run a game if it requires a lot of transactions. And to be completely honest, the Ava Labs team have just been a lot more helpful and willing to partner with us in realizing the Rainy vision than the level of support we experienced from Phantom Foundation or Phantom when we were looking at launching on Phantom. So balance of probabilities is that we're going to be focusing, RT-LOL on Avalanche and shifting our focus a bit away from Phantom moving forward. However, obviously, we're not going to remove support. I know we've got NFT staking on Phantom and we've got a liquidity pool there. There's no plans to suddenly remove liquidity and do like a single chain rug or anything like that. It's just the current focus is more on Avalanche.
All right. So this is a question regarding the governance token. Would it be Raini or Photon?
That's actually one thing that I will need to confer with MS on. We haven't locked in the exact mechanics of governance at the moment. We have a few options that we've been looking at. We obviously have to be careful to balance the competing interests of all stakeholders, and we want to deliver value to everyone. So yeah, I'm gonna, if you can take a note of that one, IU, and we'll come back to that next month. I need to confirm with MS on that one.
All right. Okay, so for the next question, so will the goats and chroma stay relevant? I suppose this one will be talking about the NFTs.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely, the gold and chroma NFTs. As we flagged previously, even after the conclusion of the Rainy NFT staking pools, the gold and chroma NFTs are still going to be treated as infused NFTs within Rainy the Lords of Light. So they will have a number of uses there, and they're actually going to be still quite powerful, in addition to their status as a collector's item.
Okay. And is there any chance for Rainy to be launched on Polygon chain?
On which chain, sorry?
Polygon.
Polygon. Oh, we did look into Polygon as an option. We looked at a lot of different chains, and we spoke to a lot of different teams. The main reason we were looking, and we are looking more at Avalanche rather than Polygon or Arbitrum or something like that, is because we have full control over the gas fees, and we have full control over the security of our own chain. Avalanche is the chain that allows you to run your own chain within that chain and have control over those aspects for validators. So it just made a lot more sense for running a game that may have the requirement for a large number of transactions to be processed in an efficient manner, for us to look at Avalanche instead. So it's unlikely at this stage that we'll be launching on Polygon. I'm going to say never, but yeah, it's more likely we're going to have our own sub chain on Avalanche.
Okay. So this one will be regarding RTLL player base. How many players are you aiming for?
So ideally, we want to get as many players as possible, but it's going to be a process that we are going to start marketing efforts for very soon. We're looking at June for our marketing efforts to start ramping up, since the game is basically launched. We don't have a fixed target of how many players we want to play the game. I will say that the current market conditions are kind of a double-edged sword. Some will say that the sentiment is very bearish, and you'd be mad to think otherwise at the moment. But by the same token, we strongly believe that this is going to be a process that separates the wheat from the chaff. So a lot of the play to earn games that really don't have any engaging gameplay, any level of polish or engagement or immersive feeling, are going to be left in the dust over the coming months. And the player base who is interested in crypto is not going to completely abandon the whole ecosystem. So there's an opportunity here for us to take a lot of the players who are interested in the play to earn and play and earn or blockchain gaming space, and bring them under RT-LOL. So we're hoping for an initial player base in the thousands and expanding that into the tens of thousands, and then progressively building from there as large as we can get it.
All right. For the fees required Oh, wait, sorry. Let me just ask this question first. It's a gameplay-related question. Do the heroes give any buffs to minions or cards in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the heroes that you'll be able to get access to in the next drop will have a number of mechanics, but the majority of them will influence the metaverse game world. So as we flagged previously, the trading card game will sit within our broader Rainy the Lords of Light metaverse. It will be a big area of emphasis for us and one of the primary gameplay mechanics, but it's not the sole mechanic there. Most of the hero stats are going to affect the metaverse world rather than the trading card game. However, there is one trait that will have an impact on gameplay. So it's going to control a hero power. And depending on which hero you get and which one you use, that is going to give you an impact on gameplay.
All right. And there is a question regarding what the fees on AVAX would be used for. Would it be used for funding the team or a burn or something else?
It's more to create a secure and stable network. So you need to have enough decentralization in terms of your validators to keep the chain operational. And to be honest, a big reason you need some level of fees is to prevent DDoS attacks. If you have zero to near zero fees, then it really makes you vulnerable to, a bad actor coming in and crashing the chain single-handedly, potentially. As long as you put a level of fee that is not prohibitive, but high enough that it really dissuades that sort of behavior, it gives your chain a lot more security and stability. But this is why launching a subchain on Avalanche seems like the rational thing for us to do, because it gives us full control over what those fees will be. So if they're too high, we can bring them down. If they're too low, we can bring them up. But the fees go to the validators. Yeah.
All right. Next question. With the market conditions as it is right now, do we have the capital to support further drops in Bitcoin/Ethereum?
Further drops in what? Sorry?
In the market, like Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin or Ethereum drops? I'm confused by Bitcoin drops. I mean, are you referring to NFT
The
drops?
price.
Oh, the drop in price. Okay, I thought you meant NFT drops. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've played this. MS and I have a serial entrepreneur background, so we're quite conservative and long-term oriented in our thinking, such that we've been really conservative over the crypto bull run in trying to secure capital for a rainy day fund, such that we should be able to ride out any possible bear market. So yeah, we're basically positioned strongly enough to just keep building until we either generate enough momentum ourselves, or the market conditions generate the momentum, or a combination of both. So we're well prepared for any sort of market conditions over the coming months or years.
All right. Can we see RTLL game tournaments and card rental features in beta release?
Absolutely. And although we're not launching the Photon token in June when we open up the phase 2 alpha, which is open for public applications, the plan is to have I won't give too many details away now, but a sort of tournament/incentive program for the best players throughout that testing period. So that'll open up as soon as we have phase 2 alpha online towards the end of June. And then the plan is for the longer term to have a number of tournaments and try to foster a relatively competitive esports scene within our game.
Okay. Next question. When are we going to have an official team info on the page? Makes a good impression where there is a picture and a name. Some games like Ragnarok got like 30 people on there.
Yeah, good question. It comes back to one of the questions I raised before we started opening it up. And the risk there is that one, a lot, if not all of our team members are reluctant to dox themselves publicly just because whilst the majority of people in the Rainy community are, you know, well-intentioned and people who have the right interests at heart, you always get one or two bad actors like the guy who showed up to Do Kwon's place after the Terra Luna collapse. So people are just a little bit concerned for their privacy for public doxing. Um, and the second point is once you post the credentials of our team, which, as I said earlier, we've focused very hard on building as strong a team as possible of the most experienced developers and the most amazing artists we could find. It really opens up people to contact them directly and try to bring them across to another project. So there are a couple of reasons why we've been reluctant to do that, but I will say that it hasn't hindered our ability to attract investment and strategic partners because our team members and the lead devs are comfortable disclosing the identities of our core team members to those strategic partners. And that's part of the way we were able to attract the likes of Merit Circle as a strategic partner and investor that you would have seen about a month or two ago. Yeah, it's just more the general public that we have to be a little bit careful about. We can consider that in the future once we get some traction with the game, but for now, yeah, we just want to play it safe.
Okay, this one will be regarding the heroes. Are heroes in limited supply?
Yeah, good question. They will be, but and I guess I should go a step further. Um, there's going to be, I think there's around 60,000 permutations of heroes. So there's going to be a lot of different unique heroes that you can generate, if not in the initial drop, then over time. But basically, every hero will be unique in terms of the combination of traits and classes it has. So that should provide some collectability, some differentiation. The intention is that people who are significant players of the game will build a band of heroes because some heroes will be stronger at some aspects than others, and there'll be time delays in a lot of quests that they can go off on. You might have one or more heroes that are really good at battling in the Colosseum in the trading card game, and you might have others that you send off on, hunting quests, and others that you send off on warrior quests. But yeah, the short answer is that heroes will be in limited supply. They're not going to be unlimited. And if you have a hero, it is likely to be unique or one of only a couple because of all the permutations that exist.
Okay, thank you, Atkin. For the next question, it's from the Discord. How about the infused drops from the last two recent NFT drops? When would they be out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have the frogs and the deadly sins, I believe, are the two that are being referenced there.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so we have taken snapshots of all of the wallets that qualified for them. And so we'll be able to airdrop them very soon. To be completely honest, we've been towards Rainy, the Lords of Light, in the interest of getting as close as possible to the alpha and getting some meaningful testing done. So I would say, if not next month, June, then July at the latest, that we'll be able to airdrop all of the people who qualified for the frogs and the Deadly Sins infused NFTs, the NFTs.
Okay. This one would be a more personal question for you, Atkin. Since when have you been in crypto? For how long, I guess?
Yeah, cool. Good question. Um, so my background is in finance. I've had several businesses that I've founded, built up and sold to large ASX companies in the past. I have been, yeah, I guess, invested in the crypto space and involved in the crypto space since 2016 or 2017. So not as long as some other people here. But I know MS has a background that's a bit further than that because he's more into the tech space. And I have been fully focused on crypto since the launch of Raini and a little bit before that, especially since we divested of our real world fintech earlier this year. So basically now, for several months now, we are 100% focused on Rainy.
All right. So this one is an RTLL question. Will the card stack scarce abilities be released prior to the game going public for holders to more appropriately build their decks to prepare for the game launch?
Yeah, good question. We will definitely be posting all of the cards and stats and abilities. We've actually been working behind the scenes on a dedicated RTLOL website, which will sit separately to the main Rainy website. I know there's been a little bit of confusion. We've had a lot of different offerings under the Rainy umbrella, so we thought it made sense for our main flagship product and offering to have its own website. So on that website, you will be able to see all of the cards and abilities and mechanics to help you build your deck in advance. That will be online before we launch the Photon token. So before the proper play to earn mechanics get online, which means Q3 at the latest.
Okay, a Photon-related question. Can we expect to launch Photon token on a big launchpad platform?
So the plan at the moment is not to be doing a launchpad for Photon. We are still looking at different options for that as we get closer to it, so we're not going to rule that out completely. But yeah, we're just very conscious of the allocations. We actually have a number of launchpad providers who have reached out to us asking about that, but we just want to make the decision that makes the most sense for the medium and long-term value of our token holders and investors. So it's TBC, but at the moment, it's not something we're looking at doing as 100%. I think also just in terms of general market sentiment, the launch pads tend to lose a lot of their competitive advantage when you go into more of a bear market. So we don't want to rely on that too heavily. And we are instead looking at our own marketing efforts to attract interest.
All right, for the next question, I guess this one would be more of a long-term sustainability type. Will RTOL game maintain the treasury, like say from collecting fees from the game?
Yes, so the intention for RT-LOL is that there'll be like a marketplace which will have some fees that will go to the protocol. The intention is actually one of the ways we are looking at sustaining long-term tokenomics. This actually relates to one of the previous questions about the Photon token value and the Rainy token value, is as the metaverse world and the gaming ecosystem grows, we want to be redirecting a portion of those protocol revenues back to token holders, people who are staking and holding the token. And in that way, we can cap the Photon supply. So it's not a limitless token system like you might have seen with Axie or other games, and replace the need for token emissions as an incentive over time with a share of protocol revenue as the game ecosystem grows and we're getting a more vibrant system with more people interacting. You can think of it similar to the way centralized exchanges work for crypto tokens, taking their fees. If there's no one trading on the exchange, there's really no fees to redistribute. As soon as you get a lot of volume and engagement on the centralized exchanges, then it can be a very healthy amount of fees that are taken in.
Okay, I do have a question of my own. I think we do have a document on what the cards do that's meant for like internal testing. Do you think we could release that for like the public community that will be testing the alpha too?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good point, Ayu. The website might not be up till Q3, which will have all of those details, but 100% we're happy to release um, the document we've got for internal testing and development. We're going to be releasing that to people who are in the invite-only phase 1 alpha within the next week in prep for that getting set up. We will make that available to everyone who qualifies for phase 2 alpha as well, so that you have a handy tool to help you prepare decks and have a more efficient and enjoyable playing experience.
All right. Thank you, Atkin. So there is a question on Photon. Is it an unlimited supply or will there be eventually a burning mechanism?
Yeah, no, it's neither actually. There's no burning mechanism planned, although we have entertained the option of doing that for a portion of the protocol revenue and the syncs that we're going to be generating. But there is a fixed supply, so there is not going to be an unlimited supply of Photon. We're going to have a lot of options for you to spend your Photon to improve your strength of your heroes or your ability to be successful at quests and increase your rewards there, or to be successful in the trading card game. We are scaling back
All
those
right.
emissions over time, so fees will replace them. Yeah.
Mm. There does not seem to be any other questions right now. Should we wait for a bit first? What do you think?
I think we've had a pretty good run, to be honest. It's been, what, about
Yeah,
15
seems
minutes?
like it.
Especially, this was meant to be a shorter one, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys submitting all of these questions.
Oh, there is
Okay.
one. When
Maybe this can be the last
full-fledged
one.
marketing.
Sorry, what was the thing?
And there is another. It's like when full-fledged marketing.
When what marketing? Sorry.
Full-fledged marketing.
Full-fledged marketing. Oh, yeah. So we have been gearing up to do a concerted marketing push and effort once we had the game ready. The game is basically ready, so we're just doing the phase 1 alpha testing, which is kind of like strategic advisors, VCs, some of the broader team members. When we open it up to the public and we're ready to accept applications, we will be starting our marketing. And when we get past alpha and it's going to go into an open testing, that's when we're going to turn marketing on to full throttle. So I would say you should expect to see some marketing in the lead up to phase 2 alpha testing at the end of next month, and then a lot more marketing Q3 as we start to move towards opening testing to everyone and moving towards the full game release.
There's a last-minute question. Can we expect a DAO in Ranicon project?
Can we expect what? Sorry.
A DAO.
Yeah.
DAO.
Um, it's a good question, and I guess it ties into the governance token question that we had earlier. So I mean, we've explored a lot of possibilities and I guess discussed the option of moving towards a DAO system, and I would say that it's not something we have immediate plans to move towards, but 100% it's something we would be open to moving towards in the medium to long term, once we feel that it's an appropriate course of action from there. So yeah, that could be another one that we come back to next month in the AMA when hopefully MS is better and has recovered from COVID. Yeah, cool. But yeah,
I'm so sorry. That's another question that
okay,
just came in.
that's all right. We'll do one more.
Yeah.
What is it?
No, no, do you want to just answer this one? Because it's regarding phase 2 alpha.
Sure.
What's the requirement to get in the phase 2 alpha?
There are no requirements. It's open to any community member, but we will be selecting the people that we feel are, I suppose, the most invested in the project, the most likely to play the game and give us meaningful testing feedback, the ones who are most excited to play it. But yeah, we're not going to set any hard and fast requirements for qualifying to apply, at least. Everyone is open to apply.
All right. So thank you everyone for asking your questions and joining us tonight.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to tune in, and I hope this has been a useful AMA. As I said earlier, apologies on behalf of MS. He has unexpectedly come down with COVID after living the hermit life for a year and avoiding it. It always catches up with you, I suppose. So I expect him to be better within the next week or two, and we'll schedule another AMA that he will be a part of in June. So in the meantime, feel free to keep submitting your questions in preparation for that next one. Keep an eye out for the post where we'll be linking the application form for phase 2 alpha, launching towards the end of next month. And yeah, just thanks everyone for tuning in. I know you can't expect too much in conditions as bearish as this, not just for crypto, but for the broader growth assets. But yeah, we're happy to continue powering along this journey with you and building the best possible Rainiverse we can.
ありがとうございました。
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Ciao.